Hey guys, what's good? Welcome back to JDB Selects. Back today with another tipping video. Round 13 coming up. It's the first Origin affected round of the year, so it will be interesting to see how some teams perform without their key stars. But before we do that, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone. Last week we clocked over the 1 million channel views. That's just insane to me. We're only 100 odd videos in and 14 months worth of work, and we've already crossed that magic milli mark. So thank you all to everyone that watches these videos. It's surpassed all of my expectations in such a short amount of time, so let's just keep this ball rolling. Thank you. And quick shout out too to old mate who likes to accuse me of cheating my views. Suck it, buddy. Now let's have a look back at how we did last week. So last week I did say it was going to be a tough week to tip, and I am embarrassed to say that this is the worst result we've had on this channel since its inception. 3 out of 8 is not acceptable. I just wasn't brave enough to tip so many upsets. I think there was 5 or 6 games where the underdogs got up. I wasn't prepared to do it, and I paid the price for it, but it is what it is. We bounced back again this week. 5 games, 5 out of 5. Here we go. And if you don't know by now, we are running a subscribers tipping comp. All the details to join are shown on screen, so get involved if you can. And speaking of the tipping comp, we have a new leader, Jared68, currently atop the ladder after 12 rounds. He's knocked off Big Papa Guns and Bronchitis, who was there last week, with a score of 62 points, so congrats to Jared68. Shout out to everyone that's in the tipping comp this year. It's been awesome to see all of the chats and messages popping through the message board. Good luck with your tips this week, and let's get stuck into my round 13 tips. Round 13 gets underway on Thursday night, just a solo game there with the 6th place Dolphins taking on the 17th place St. George Illawarra Dragons at KO Stadium in Redcliffe. Starting first with the Finns, Craig Bellamy got the better of Wayne Bennett in the clash of the Supercoaches, with the Finns going down 16 points to 24. Felice Kafusi was sent off in the opening minutes, which allowed Melbourne to settle into their rhythm and really took the sting out of the Dolphins for the entire first half. A stronger second half kept the Storm scoreless, but it was too little too late as handling errors and discipline got the better of them. Kaufusi is now facing at least 3 weeks on the sideline for his high shot on Christian Welsh, meaning he will also miss Origin Game 1. Good news for the Finns though, as the GOAT Marky Nichols is likely to be named this week. And speaking of Origin, there'll be lots of Origin team updates in this week's video, so Hamiso and Tom Gilbert will be unavailable this week as they've been selected in the Queensland Origin side. Now, as for the Dragons, oh my days. The Saints pulled off one of the greatest game winners in recent memory, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat in the final 10 seconds, defeating the Roosters 24 points to 22, and in doing so snapping a 6-game losing streak and giving interim head coach Ryan Carr a win on debut. The Dragons played with a seemingly rejuvenated aggression and a relentless never say die attitude, coming up with some huge plays on defense and hanging in the contest for the full 80, even when it looked like they'd blown another one. As is the case every week, Ben Hunt was the Dragons' best, with impressive cameos from Zach Lomax, Jack DeBellin and Jaden Sewer. It's hard to read too much into the performance as they had plenty of chances to ice it, plus the Roosters were also absolutely awful, but it is amazing what a win like that can do for a side's confidence. And quite ironic too, despite snapping their losing streak, the Dragons now find themselves in dead last on the ladder. In terms of the Origin outs, it's only Ben Hunt who has been selected for the Origin camp, which is obviously a massive out for St. George. Looking at the two sides head to head, the two sides have already met this season, with the Dragons flogging the Finns 38 points to 12 back in round 5. I do like the Dolphins in this one by 1 to 12 points. I think the Dragons without Ben Hunt, it's a big hill to climb up against a almost full strength Dolphin side. I know the Finns do lose Hamiso, who's been outstanding for them, but I do think the Finns can grind out a win here by 1 to 12 points. There's also only one game on Friday this week, and that's the 13th placed Parramatta Eels taking on the 14th placed North Queensland Cowboys at CommBank. Starting first with the Eels, Parramatta pulled off a massive Indigenous round upset over the South Sydney Rabbitohs, winning 36 points to 16 thanks to a brilliant second half from Dylan Brown and Mitchell Moses. Moses was immense with 27 runs, a tackle bust, 3 offloads, 3 line break assists and 4 try assists, but it was his halves partner Dylan Brown who was named the man of the match. The Eels powered home in the second half and played with far more desire and passion than the Bunnies, with Widemu Greg and Junior Paulo clocking up over 200 metres each. And speaking of Paulo, the Eels will be without him this week as he enters the Origin camp, but that shouldn't slow them down too much. And as for the Cowboys, well, North Queensland, it's official. You can draw a line through them. The Cowboys were pounced on by the Tigers, 18 points to 66 in a historic loss. Full credit to the Tigers, but it was one of the most lackluster performances of the season, with the Tigers completely out-competing the Cowboys, who had more holes in them than a sieve. It was a must-win game for the Cowboys before the Origin period, as they'll now lose Val Holmes, Reuben Cotter, potentially Tom Dearden and Murray Taulagi to Origin camp, which isn't going to make their uphill climb any easier. Looking at the two sides head-to-head, Parramatta have won 3 of the past 4 games against the Cowboys, who have also never won at CommBank, albeit 1 game. I'm sure you've already guessed who I'm going to tip in this one, and that's the Eels 13+. I think the Eels are only losing Paolo, and both Mitchell Moses and Dylan Brown are starting to heat up, while North Queensland are losing a lot of their effort players, so I think it's going to be another tough night for Todd Payten and the Cowboys, so Parramatta 13+. Kicking off the action on Saturday, there are 2 games on Saturday this week, and the first one has the 7th placed NZ Warriors taking on the 4th placed Brisbane Broncos at McLean Park in Napier. Starting first with the Warriors, my Wars enjoyed the bye last week, but the week prior they snapped a 3-game losing streak with a 24-12 point win over the Bulldogs in Sydney. SJ had the ball on a string in the first half, setting up 2 tries and allowing the Warriors to dominate field position. The back 3 of the Warriors did a great job handling the Burton high ball, with Marcelo Montoya and Chance Nickel-Klukstad looking as safe as houses and bringing the ball back with purpose. However, despite the convincing scoreline, the Warriors missed almost twice as many tackles as the Dogs, something they will need to shore up this week as they face a fast and elusive Brisbane side. And as for Brisbane, the Broncos went down to the Panthers 4 points to 15 in a gritty arm wrestle on Thursday night. The game was littered with disallowed tries and what could have been moments, but the Broncos must surely be pleased with their defensive effort. The Panthers did a great job of nullifying Payne Haas, but Paddy Carrigan was absolutely outstanding for the Broncos, making almost 70 tackles and running for nearly 200 metres. Unreal. It was always going to be a tough ask for Brisbane without their captain and key playmaker Adam Reynolds, but I don't think that the Broncos' stock dropped too much with that performance against one of the elite sides of the competition. A lot of outs for the Broncos this week with Origin, with Reece Walsh, Selwyn Cobbo, Payne Haas, Paddy Carrigan and Tom Flegler all gone, which means a big reshuffle for Kevy Walters. Looking at the two sides head-to-head, it's been fairly even in recent times, which also includes an 18-all draw back in 2019. This will be the first time that both sides have played in Napier, but the Warriors have won 8 of the past 12 games against the Broncos in New Zealand. Do I even need to say it, baby? Wars 13+. I think the Broncos have too many people out this week, and the Wars, they're looking good. That's my team. I have to back them. It's not often I can take the Wars 13+, so I'm going to do it. And the final game on Saturday has the 2nd placed South Sydney Rabbitohs taking on the 8th placed Canberra Raiders at Accor Stadium. Starting first with the Bunnies, Souths couldn't continue their great run of form with a disappointing showing against the Eels, losing 16 points to 36. Souths were competitive in the first 40 with Latrell Mitchell coming up with some big plays, but the second half was riddled with errors like Lachlan Elias kicking it out on the full, with Parramatta scoring off the back of both of those. Cody Walker, however, his run of form continued, setting up all 3 of South's tries, but Souths were peppered through the middle and faded late into the contest. They will be without Latrell Mitchell, Cam Murray and Jai Arrow, who have been called into Origin camp, and they won't be taking part in this week's game. And as for the Raiders, Canberra's 5-game hot streak was snapped by a spanking at the hands of the Manly Sea Eagles, going down at home 14 points to 42 to close out round 12. It was a messy game with both sides only managing a 60% completion rate, but the Raiders conceded almost twice the amount of penalties and could never mount any pressure, although Canberra did have their chances. Good news for the Raiders though is that they will almost field a full-strength side this week, as only Hudson Young has been called into Origin camp. That's amazing news for Hudson. He's one of my favourite players. He's a great anytime try scorer option, and he fully deserves his Origin debut. Looking at the two sides head-to-head, the Raiders have a good record over the Bunny in recent times. They've won 4 of their past 6 games as well as 7 of the past 10. South also haven't beaten the Raiders at Accor since 2013. I like the Raiders here by 1 to 12 points. I think obviously the outs for the Rabbitohs of Latrell Mitchell, who's their standout and he really galvanises that squad, will be too much for the Bunnies to overcome, although I am a bit concerned with the form of Cody Walker. He's arguably been one of their best players, but the Raiders do have a good record over South, so Raiders 1 to 12. And the final game of round 13, the Origin affected round, it is the 12th placed Newcastle Knights taking on the 9th placed Manly Sea Eagles at McDonald Jones Stadium. Starting first with the Knights, Newcastle were unable to defeat the Sharks, going down 6 points to 26. It was another messy game with 30 combined errors and both sides completing at 60-odd%, but Cronulla were able to ice their chances. Despite an early head knock, KP returned to the game and scored the Knights' only try, but was unable to make any further impact. He's also notably been excluded from the State of Origin side this year, which means he will line up for the Knights this week, but they will be without Tyson Frizzell, who has earned himself an Origin recall. And as for the Sea Eagles, Manly managed to keep their season tracking in the right direction with a massive 42-14 point win over the Raiders to close out round 12. Tommy Turbo seemed like he had a point to prove on the eve of Origin selection and delivered in bucket loads, scoring a hat-trick, running for almost 250 metres and helping set up a couple of Manly's other tries. Josh Schuster was also electric in his return from injury, setting up 3 tries and scoring a meat pie of his own. The Sea Eagles will be without DCE and Turbo this week through Origin, and Manly don't have a great record without them. They will also be without Jake Trbojevic, who had to withdraw himself from Origin selection with a calf injury. Looking at the two sides head-to-head, it has been fairly even between the two sides in recent times. The two sides already played each other this year back in round 5, and that game produced a 32-all draw, the first between the two clubs and the first NRL draw in 3 years. The Knights, however, have won 3 of the past 5 games against Manly in Newing. So, because of that, I'm going to take the Knights here by 1 to 12 points. Obviously, Manly have some huge outs with DCE and Turbo, and the Knights at home should win and win well if they can improve their handling and errors. So, in summary, I am taking the Finns 1 to 12, Parramatta 13+, Warriors 13+, Raiders 1 to 12, and Knights 1 to 12. Thanks as always for watching. Another big thank you again for 1 million channel views. I really appreciate it. We have a great community here. We're building so strong. Lots of awesome things on the horizon too. So good luck with your tipping this week, and I'll see you soon with some more Origin chat.